Hello, and welcome to a special tabletop sim module. Before you is a recreation of the card game Legion of Honor, as published by the fine folk at Clash of Arm Games. This walkthrough will give you an overview of what all is included, as well as show off some forms of automation that I have scripted to help you get through much of the bookkeeping in a timely manner. A few notes before we begin though. This module assumes that you have a copy of the core rulebook, as well as the optional playbook that contains rules for expanding your Legion of Honor experience. As much of the text can be small in Tabletop Sim, please do not forget that you can hold Alt while mousing over an item to see it up close for ease of reading. And finally, if you're the sort of player that enjoys rolling dice for everything and don't wish to use any of the automation that I've scripted, that is perfectly fine. All of the automation scripts are optional and not required for the game to function. Let's have a look around the table. In the center, we have the Grognard sheet, where important stats are tracked. Flanking this sheet are the reference sheets for all of the large rules tables that you will be using to reference. Included is a rule term glossary, a history sheet, the event sheet, and other sheets that are important to the game. At the top, we have a yellow bag for discarding used cards, as well as the decks for the in-garrison, combat, on-campaign, and dueling cards. The blue bag has your situational cards, such as the Antian Gerard encounters, assignment to Spain, and other important cards. Finally, we have the large stack of event cards that are worked into the other decks as the game's timeline progresses. On the center right, we have the tracking tokens that will help the player remember important information that comes into play as the game progresses. These include tokens for participating in important events, loyalty tokens for when your loyalty is called into question, wound tokens, victory point tokens, and a bag for drawing player pawns if you are playing with the optional mortal enemies rule. These tokens are all used on the player mats that I have added onto the board here around the outside. These mats are an easy way for players to track important long-term information about your character that might otherwise be easy to forget at the end of a 6-hour game. Anytime you take any of the event, loyalty, wound, or victory point tokens, you can place them here for ease of tracking. Additionally, if you have your mortal enemy, you can place that pawn here until you or they die. As well, you can find your color-coded ardor tokens for use on the fair sex sheet to easily track who has how much of your affections. In the bottom center section, we have the campaign sheet for tracking the season and army assignments, as well as the fair sex sheet for tracking the stats of ladies that you meet over the course of these years. Finally, on the far left flank, we have a dedicated deck and discard space for when the game is ongoing. The purpose of the automation is to quickly take care of the more time-consuming parts of the game while not simply playing the game for you. Again, all of these are optional, and if you'd prefer to roll dice instead of clicking a button, you are free to do so. Let's look at the Grognard sheet first. At the bottom of the sheet, you will find 3 buttons for resolving the most common occurrences in character generation. The first, Generate Character, will roll your stats for you and change the counters of your color to the appropriate values. You'll also notice that the script will move your tokens for your rank and standing to the correct locations. We've also moved your dice to your playmat for you. The only value that has not been rolled is your starting army assignment. Simply roll your 2d10 to find your assignment in the first season as normal. The Character Death button is also found here. We've turned this into a simple one-click solution. Once pressed, the script will automatically recalculate your stats based on your standing values as well as the values of other players in the game. Once that is done, a set of instructions will be printed out to chat informing you of your reassignment as well as any other important stats that need to be manually adjusted. As a small note, the script is smart enough to ignore all of the counters that are already zeroed out. Additionally, do not worry about accidentally clicking these buttons, as all of them will have a confirmation pop-up to make sure that you're certain that you want to follow through with the action you're about to take. Lastly, in the middle of these two is a late join button. As the game can go on for some time, it is not uncommon to have someone who wants to step in while the game is already in progress. If they so choose to do so, they can take a seat, click this button, and be instantly assigned stats based on the stats of players who are already in game. Please note, you will still need to roll for army assignment and standing, and then find which rank they fall under based off of the stats that they are generated with. Again, this should all be output to chat for you to verify. And last, but certainly not least, we have the Fair Sex sheet. When you wish to meet a specific lady, you simply click said button, and the script will automatically generate their wealth, charm, and influence stats, as well as give you their attractiveness value. It is very important to note that the wealth, charm, and influence stats are the interpreted forms of their D10 rolls. While wealth is the true value of that D10 roll, charm and influence stats only go from 0 to 4 based on what that D10 roll is. The attractiveness value is the sum of all 3 of these D10s added together. Should you reach the cap of 10 ladies, you have the option to dismiss one of them, which will zero out all the values and allow you to meet them again. Finally, hidden in the bottom right, we have the Fair Sex Phase Update button. This part of the rules asks the players to roll a D10 per stat, reference a lady chart, and then adjust the values based on the changed numbers. This would be done per lady, or if the whole board was revealed, 30 rolls and chart references, and so on. It's a bit time consuming, so I've put all of this into an easy one-click button. When the time in the season comes, simply click the button, and each of the active ladies will have their stats adjusted accordingly. It is very important to note, because the charts for these changes have plenty of no value changes outcomes available to them, as well as the possibility of having a +1 in one area and a -1 in the other, it is very possible you could hit this button and then see no value changes. That is perfectly fine. Trust that the script is running correctly even if you do not see anything change. Believe me, I have spent more time making sure that this is running correctly than I would like to admit to. With that said, that is all of the automation that is included in this release. If you play, I hope you make as many cool and exciting stories as my friends and I have while playing this classic game. I would like to thank the original designers, Richard and Mike, as well as the publisher of Legion of Honor, Clash of Armed Games, for putting this card game together. That game inspired this passion project, and I am forever grateful.